The Nobel Prize is just completely overblown in terms of people's perception of it. I am not a Superman by any means. My wife will tell you that.
Let me get this straight. You are a physicist who won the Nobel Prize in chemistry, was inducted in the National Inventors Hall of Fame, and for some reason you're spending your Sunday night with me.
I was your age once too, right?
If you never got into science, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
Oh, that's a darn good question. Science was burned into me through Apollo and Star Trek practically from the time I was in diapers. I think I would have liked to be an airplane pilot. I always wanted to be an astronaut. I've always felt like I'm absolutely near the top in terms of work ethic, but I consider myself slightly above average in brains. And so there's certain disciplines where work ethic isn't going to be enough, and you need the brains too, right? So,
Overall, though, which would you say is more important and conducive to success?
Oh, obviously work ethic.
Okay.
I mean, because it's transferable to every discipline, right? Whereas brains is, I mean, you need a modest amount of brains, but you don't need to be Einstein to succeed at most things.
How does a person develop a focus like yours? Because I think in a society like we live in now, full of distraction, living in reality becomes a challenge. I think we spend the majority of our day on a screen, whether working or scrolling.
Yeah, you guys are screwed. Okay. It was different in my era, of course, right? There wasn't that video opium that exists today, right?
Oops, sorry.
Yes, exactly. Hey, don't listen to this interview, okay? You should get off now, look at a book, take a walk, think about things. Don't spend your time here.
I'm going to cut that right out.
Exactly. But yeah, the focus comes from the passion, right? If you're passionate about something, it's automatic, right? And so it's finding the thing that you really love and care about, and then it just falls in. A lot of people don't succeed because they focus on all the effort they don't even try because they're constantly thinking about the effort that's involved, right? What you need to do is you need to focus on the goal and the outcome. And if you do that and don't focus on the effort, then you'll get over that barrier and start investing and start focusing. So you got to focus on what you're trying to achieve instead of what it's going to cost you.
That's a great point. But at the same time, I think people who emphasize the end goal tend to lose sight of the beauty of the journey.
I don't feel that way in the goals I've achieved, right? I mean, in fact, you know, a line I used at the very end of my Nobel address is the struggle itself is its own reward, okay? And I really believe that, okay, is the time in which you're you know, with your back against the wall and really struggling to get something done. I remember those moments vividly, and yet I remember them fondly as well as vividly, because I understand that is part of the process of getting to where you want to go.
Did you enjoy them in the moment? Or
No.
it's just in retrospect?
No. I mean, you know, we could go on forever about my story, but basically, you know, I went to Bell Labs, I quit. I was a house husband, then I ended up working for my dad's company, and then I quit, and then I had no idea what I was going to do. And I was, 42, and had how old was my daughter then? 7, and a son who was 2. And, you know, my wife worked, but still, I had no idea, no plan. I'd given up on academia. I'd given up on working for my dad. I had no idea I was, you know, I started making some contacts to people I used to know and not getting any feelers back and stuff like that. And I said, man, it was extremely depressing right then to be in
I can imagine.
I remember one dinner going out with my wife after I got rejected for basically trying to go back and do a postdoc again to get back into academia, and basically said I'm overqualified.
That's a nice way to be rejected.
Yeah, I
if
guess.
I asked the girl out
but
and she said you're too handsome. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you would know she's lying, right? Just trying to
Thanks
break
a
it
lot.
to you,
Is that?
So yeah, I remember those times, and I remember them because I know it just gives you the confidence later on to know that no matter how dark it gets, it always gets better.
Yeah.
Okay.
When that darkness comes, it's so important to hold on to the idea that it will get better.
Well, the other message that I try to convey to people, right, is that my darkness, okay, look, I'm so dark. Look, I have a 2-year-old son, a 7-year-old daughter, a wife who loves me. She has a job. We have a house. Mm-hmm. Don't you think that we're at the 99th percentile of quality of life?
Without a doubt.
Even while I'm in that deep, I mean, I just can't believe the extent to which people don't have a sense of gratitude for everything that they have in life, and just reflect, just to be at this university.
Absolutely.
Even if you're flunking out. Okay? I mean, you're here at Cal, okay?
Yeah.
You are in the greatest country on earth, in the history of the planet. There has never been a better time to be alive as a human being. You look at where we were 200 years ago. Not even thinking about where we were 100,000 years ago, okay? I mean, in 1850, the average life expectancy in every country on earth was less than 50 years.
Yeah.
And 50% of all babies died. That's not that long ago. So it's just human nature to somehow focus on this negative. But man, you need to develop this sense that as bad as it is, it's really fucking good.
Yeah,
too.
it's really fucking good. And apathy is so cancerous.
Yeah.
When we become apathetic to every privilege we have in our life.
Or just the cosmic luck lottery that you were born in this country.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
You're born a citizen of the U.S. You have won a lottery ticket right there.
Whatever I'm doing, I try to find the gratitude in it. If I'm going for a walk, I'm grateful that I can walk. And if I couldn't walk, I'd be grateful that I can see and hear.
Right, exactly. Part of that, I think, is evolutionarily involved in us in order to understand threats, and also, I mean, the prime evolutionary drives are survival and reproduction, right? And so I think a lot of this human tendency to focus on the negative is about trying to identify the issues that need to be addressed to increase the chances of longevity and reproduction.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's natural and important and correctly wired into us, but at the same time, we can understand rationally that we have it pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think you're right. From an evolutionary standpoint, perhaps it is necessary that we have these indicators of fear, but they can be detrimental if we let them take over and if we don't rationalize them using what we actually have in front of us.
Now, all that being said, social media has evolved to play upon those fear factors, right? And so therefore it amplifies those negative emotions and those and the despair that comes from that.
Yeah.
Because it's what generates clicks and generates money for whoever is behind the clicks.
Yeah. Where were you when you found out you won the Nobel Prize?
I'll tell you that whole story. It's kind of weird. So I was in Munich, actually, and I was there to give a talk at a conference, and the conference was going to start in the afternoon, and so the guy who organized the conference, I got there early, and he said that I could just hang out in his office while he was doing other stuff until after lunch, and we'd go to lunch and then go to the conference. And so I was actually working on the proofs for another paper. In fact, the paper that I think is actually far more significant and I'm much more proud of than the Nobel work. So I had, several years before, I had dropped all the stuff related to my Nobel work before the Nobel Prize because I had been there, done that. I knew what its limitations were, which are pretty extreme. And so, but it also, throughout my career, what happens is I develop something, I take it till I find out what its limitations are, and then I get depressed, and then I try to think about, well, how would I get past that? and then go on to the next thing, and then the next, and the next, and that's kind of where I go. And so this was the next thing, and so I was totally focused on that paper. And then the phone rang, and it's like, nobody knows I'm in Europe right now except my family. So I pick up the phone, and I can tell it's a European number. And even though it was Nobel week, and sometimes I will think, hey, it's Nobel week, I wonder who's going to get it this year. At this time, I was so focused on the talk and the paper, I wasn't thinking about it. But as soon as I saw that number, before I even hit accept, I knew who was on the other end of that. I don't know how I knew, because I wasn't thinking, I'm going to win a Nobel Prize, But I knew who, and right from there, I just started to shake.
Oh my God.
And so I click, and it says, hey, this Nobel Committee, we'd like to congratulate you on sharing the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. And then he starts babbling on about all this stuff that I couldn't really remember. And I said, okay, thank you very much. And very brief call, less than a minute. And I hang up the phone, the cell phone, and I just sit there in the chair. And I couldn't process it. I mean, it took me 20 minutes to stop shaking, right? And it was an anomalously beautiful day in Munich in early October in the 70s. And so, again, people weren't there at the conference yet. It was on this campus. So I start walking around the campus, and I try to process, and I say, what are you feeling? And I realized the closest analogy I could think of was it was like getting hit by a bus. Because everything in my life right then was just going so great. Again, what was it, 2014? So, yeah, I mean, we had both of the kids, no, the new kids, okay, not the first crop, the second crop, okay. So I had, 2 kids, beautiful wife, I had the paper that I thought was really going to define my career here, that I was writing the proofs of, and everything was just, the lab was just humming, and everything was great, and then all of a sudden, I knew this would be such a massive perturbation to my life, right? It's like, that's why I say it's like getting hit by a bus. It's like you're going around your day and you have all of these plans and everything, you wake up in traction in the hospital, right? And you're like, all of a sudden all my plans are gone, or they just poof. I just don't know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And so it took a little while to process that. And then the other thing that happened was, while I was walking, the first person to call me they didn't have my cell phone number. They called my ex-wife's house. How old was Ravi then? Ravi was now 15, yeah. So being there 5:30 in the morning, he picked up the phone. And they say, hello, may we speak with Dr. Betzig, please? And then he said, I'm Dr. Betzig. And so then they explained how he had won the Nobel Prize while he's trying to interrupt them and say, no, I was just joking, right? And so, but anyway, so finally he gets them to shut up, and he says, this is my dad's cell phone number. And then they called me. So he knew before I did, right? And so he talks to me and said, what are you feeling? I said, feel like I've been hit by a bus. And that was that. And then I walk a little more, and then all of a sudden, my host found me because I'm randomly walking around. Says, "You got to come with us, right?" And so they go to where the conference room is, where the things, and there's just this gigantic mob of media.
Oh my God!
Just a fucking gigantic mob of media.
That's
right?
crazy. So the media knew right when you found out?
Well, pretty close. I mean, they make the announcement quickly, and man, they figured out where I was.
Yeah. Can you reject a Nobel Prize? Or
You
it's
can.
like they force it on you?
So that was the other thing I thought about, actually, right? Was I was thinking, it turns out, do you know who Richard Feynman is?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So in his book, Seriously, You're Joking, Dr. Feynman, he relates the story about when he learned, because he learned from a reporter, right, who called him up. And he said to the reporter, I just don't want to have anything to do with this. I want to reject it, And the reporter said, you will get so much more attention if you turn it down than if you just go through with it. And Feynman thought about it for a minute and said, yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, those thoughts had already been hashed out for me, right? So, yeah, no, you just kind of grin and bear it and look, I'm grateful for it. It's fine. Would I have been bitter if other people in my field got and I did it? Probably somewhat. Would I have gotten over it? Yeah, for sure. It's not. I mean, I felt at the time, and I feel even more strongly now that prizes are corrosive, particularly prizes in science. They're completely corrosive.
Why?
Because first off, they're trying to pick individual winners out of a discipline where collegiality and collaboration is prized, right? Mm-hmm. And it picks one winner out of a field where there's always going to be multiple people. And it's not like the committee are experts in every discipline under the sun, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yes, they take a lot of input from people who are experts, but still, you know, it's they don't have papal infallibility, okay?
Yeah.
And usually there's more than you can have at most 3 people in any prize in any year, and often the field has a lot more serious contributors in that, and those people are going to be not too happy. And the other thing is, you know, this relates to my bitching about academia in general, is people grow big groups, right? Mm-hmm. It's the collective effort.
Yeah.
And sometimes the ideas come from the grad students, and yet the PI ends up getting all the glory, right? You know, it's like, what the fuck is this, right? I mean, it's so... everything prize related, it's a stupid shortcut, right? It's like you don't evaluate people on their work anymore. You evaluate them on the lines on their fucking resume, right? Mm-hmm. It's stupid, right? You're not willing to do the hard work to find out whether this person is the right person for the job. You care more about what their titles and so forth are. That's nuts.
It's interesting. It almost sounds like you detest winning the Nobel Prize a little bit.
I don't detest it. I do think science would be far better off without prizes, but it's, again, human nature, right? It's the way we're wired, right? Mm-hmm. It's again status, and status is survival and reproduction again, right?
Yeah.
So it all comes down to that again. Right?
So what are your thoughts on people who kind of use wherever they went to school as like the highlight of their life, and they're
pathetic.
Yeah.
Every year, Nobel laureates are invited to this island in Lake Constance at the bottom of Germany called Lindau. Mm-hmm. And they invite like 600 odd young scientists, usually postdocs, some grad students, and like that. You know the line from Twelfth Night about some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. So I would say 80% of Nobel laureates are in the third camp. Okay, they got lucky, okay. And they had greatness thrust upon them. Some are born great, like Feynman or Heisenberg or, you know, Watson or people like that. But for the most part, I would say the one thing that they have consistently is at some time in their life, they really passionately focused on a certain area, okay? But their expertise in their area does not make them expertise in everything under the sun. And one of the things that I truly abhor is how many emails I get about, please lend your name to this letter or this cause. Or nobody in their right mind should think that a guy who won a Nobel Prize in chemistry for a microscope would have any better idea about, you know, Gaza or global warming or you name it than the next guy.
Right.
Why the hell would you get my opinion on it, right? The Nobel Prize is just completely overblown in terms of people's perception of it. I'm one of those who had the greatness thrust upon. I am not a Superman by any means. My wife will tell you that. Okay? She tells me that every day.
Yeah.
Okay?
Hey, every day is good.
That's right, right. So you know, I work very hard, okay? Yeah. I'm very passionate about what I do.
Yeah.
I'm proud of what I've accomplished. But I am not some Feynman or Einstein or anything like that, or even remote, you know?
Yeah.
And it's probably just as well, okay? So I'm proudest of being a father, and then I'm proudest of being a husband, and You know, so the rest of it is just icing on the cake, I guess, right?
Talk to me a little bit about being a father. I mean, that's what I'm always most interested to learn about my guests.
My God.
Because that's, out of anybody that I interview, the thing that I want to achieve more.
It is so wonderful to be a parent. I mean, at times it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. It gets easier as you go, though, as I've found out, right? As each successive baby isn't as hard as the previous, but but I mean, it's the lack of control that's most frustrating. You know, if your kid gets really sick, right, and you would give your life for that kid, right, and you just can't. There's nothing. There's situations sometimes where there's nothing you can do, or if kids, you know, have emotional problems in school or something like that, you just beat your head in thinking, how can I help them, right? And there's this feeling of helplessness, right, which is. But man, they're just you know, I can come home. I work so hard. I come home and I'm dog tired, and I think I'm going to do nothing but just collapse. And then I come in the door, and you know, the three of them are just bouncing off of one another, and whether it's fighting or playing or doing whatever, you just get an immediate second wind, right? And it's just like, it's just a joy to be around them, and their innocence, their energy, their I can't think of the word I'm looking, not just enthusiasm, but when they're young, they haven't hit what your age has, right? This oh, life sucks, da da da. They're still, you know, it's all sunshine and rainbows, right? And even their problems are laughable, right? I mean, you know, so and so teased me on the playground or whatever, and it's fine. It means a lot to them, and you help them through it. But there is absolutely nothing better than having kids, nor more impactful to have them and raise them and make them good adults. You know, my two oldest, one is a 10th grade math teacher in Brooklyn, teaches underprivileged kids and gets them through, you know, the Regents exam and all the rest, and gets them so that they're not fucked over by not understanding debt, for example, right? There's so many of your generation who go into debt right away and don't know that they're becoming serfs as a result, right? And so he teaches them, you know, this kind of thing as well. And then I have, you know, another son who does high-frequency options trading, but he's also involved in politics and other things. And so it's just wonderful to see them become adults, and so many surprises along the way about how they develop, and so much pride in what they do. And I would give up everything to just keep my kids, right?
In terms of fatherhood, if you could go back to see yourself at any point in time and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
It will all work out, right? Even when, you know, let's see, there was a time when the oldest was almost expelled from school because this is the one who was the 10th grade math teacher, right? Now, in 10th grade math class, he would just drop F-bombs in front of the teacher all the time.
I wonder where he got it from.
It takes a juvenile delinquent to know how to tame a room full of juvenile delinquents, okay? It all works out in the end,
You mentioned two camps for people that achieve greatness, those who are born great and those who have greatness thrust upon them.
Right.
Do you think you were a naturally good father, or was becoming a good father something that you developed over time and you had to learn through mistakes?
I kind of feel like I'm a fairly natural father, in part because I'm immature. Okay, so I you know, there are stern dads and there are the goofy dads. I'm the goofy dad.
Really?
Right? Oh yeah. I'm always, you know, I'm very stern at work with my people. Well, not, you know, I'm fair and I will crack jokes, but people know that I mean business when I'm at work, right? And you know, the kids, every now and then the stern dad has to show up, but most of the time, you know, I'm just playing with them. The best way to teach kids is through play, okay? You can teach them so much. Not, you know, you can teach them how reading, writing, math, but you can teach them, you know, principles. You can teach them philosophy. You can teach them all sorts of things just by play, okay? And it's fun, okay? So yeah, I think I'm actually a fairly natural dad. I mean, maybe my wives would disagree, but I think I'm a good dad. Yeah, and I take pride in that.
Okay? Yeah, I can tell you love your children very much.
Yeah, I do.
I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
People who achieve such illustriousness with their careers, I think, are the ones who usually say, like, hey, family is what brings happiness.
Yeah,
Human
right.
connection brings
Yeah,
happiness.
right.
Yet, as a society, we've been trained to chase just the career.
Yeah.
And disregard the family aspect, which I think is such a detriment.
It's amazing that this species has gone as far as we have. On my darkest days, I think we still should be throwing shit at one another in trees in Africa, right? We're just barely above that level. This country rewards innovation, more so than any country on earth, right? And this is why the U.S. will be on top till your children die, okay? Also, we have incredible... We won the lottery when we colonized this country because it is the best real estate on earth in every respect, okay? We have ocean access on 3 sides. We have inland waterways everywhere to go everywhere. We have the most arable land on earth. I mean, just in every respect. The United States has it absolutely. Anybody in this country, whether you're an immigrant or whether you're born here, man, you've won the lottery by being here. And so I totally disagree that Bell Labs was the last. There's innovation happening. Jesus, man. The innovation here started when William Shockley left Bell Labs to start, Shockley Semiconductor in what is now Silicon Valley.
Right.
It's Silicon Valley because of him and others with him, and then the others that spun off and created everything. Okay. I mean, our whole world has been transformed by that, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree in any regard that America is the country for innovation and promotes it. But I just think an institution like Bell Labs, when you compare what they're doing now to what they were doing in the 70s and 80s,
I just posted on Twitter a long thread about what made Bell Labs great, about what makes academia incredibly inefficient for innovation, and finished it up with my belief 10 years ago that there would never be another Bell Labs because the culture has changed. And too many people want work-life balance, and now dual learner couples are the norm, and it's not really possible and unfair, particularly if you're going to have children, to work the kind of hours that are necessary to do like what we did at Bell Labs back in the day. Right. And then something happened around 10 years ago, and that something's called SpaceX. In my opinion, SpaceX is the modern Bell Labs. Because the problem of making life multiplanetary is the most interdisciplinary problem in human history. And they are attacking it with gusto. And they have made amazing advances in technology along the way that most people are not really thinking about or aware of. But the ability to make a Raptor engine and the materials science that had to be invented to keep that thing from melting and exploding at the pressures and temperatures it runs at are
unbelievable.
And it's just one example of a million. Starlink, to be able to create that constellation and to have the pointing stability, have the lasers to go from satellite to satellite and all of that, they've completely transformed global communications. And it's so strange. It's like, most humans, when it comes to things like this, or even what happens in Silicon Valley or what happens in pharma and like that, they're like fish in water and they don't see the water, right? But all around us, there's incredible innovation, and SpaceX is a modern. It reminds me so much of Bell Labs when I watch. Tomorrow they're going to launch the final V2 Starship, and you will watch, their workers, right, cheering it on, right, and what the thing that makes it work is this monomaniacal focus on work, and if you look at those people, they're only a few years older than you, my friend. Okay. If you look at what happened in Apollo, okay, It was all people in their 20s who did this stuff, right? So there's a window of opportunity between when you finish your education and before you're rearing kids where you can haul ass, okay? So if you make an organization that focuses on hiring that cohort, right, and run them to death, and then eventually they'll burn out and they'll leave, and all right, that's good. Because now you got new guys coming in with more gusto and more new ideas. And man, Musk has figured out that formula at all his companies. Okay. And so, so it's happening. Okay. There should be more entrepreneurs who realize that this is the way. Okay.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned multiplanetary existence because you wanted to be an astronaut when you were growing up. Do you think if Musk came to you and he said, "Hey, we're bringing people to Mars," are you
Sign me up? Absolutely, absolutely. I would fight. I'd fight a death match with whoever it is to be. Look, I'm quite old. I'm 65 years old. How many more years do I fucking have? Okay, right? 15. How many quality of life years will I have left? Right? 10 maybe if I'm lucky. If I stay reasonably healthy and there isn't some cancer that's starting to develop, or 10 at best. The right people to send to Mars on the first trips are me and people like me, because the life expectancy for anybody at that place is probably going to be 10 years or less. So send somebody who's only going to last 10 years anyway, right? We have a lot less to lose than sending you to Mars, right?
I don't have any kids.
But so absolutely. I have I intend to retire when I'm 70 because of this. I've watched the generation ahead of me decline in health and mental acuity. I watched my parents slowly go away. I've seen the whole process from beginning to end, and I'm not kidding myself to know. I know it's happening to me. My mental acuity is not what it was 20 years ago. Okay, there's a compensating effect from experience, which is helpful, but I'd be kidding myself to think that 10 years from now, I'm going to be able to be, a real asset in the lab, right? And so I've made it clear to my family, I'm retiring at 70, okay? And I have a very long bucket list of things that I want to do. One is pick up flying again, but number one on that bucket list is if Starship gets to be running as much as Musk wants it to, with hundreds of flights, I might be able to afford a ticket to at least go to low Earth orbit. And that is number one on my bucket list before I die, is to make it into space. Even, not the pop rocket that Blue Origin runs, but actually stay up and float in zero G for a while, and look at the Earth. And if I manage to make it to the moon on a trip, that would be even better. If I made it to Mars, even if it's one way, my kids will be old enough by then, and, they'll all be sad, but, it's a 45-minute phone call, so, one way. So, but, yeah, if I were given, but, I wouldn't want to go on a trip to Mars as just a passenger. I'd want to know that I'm there because I could make a contribution somehow, right? I think the odds are 1 in a billion, but
so is winning the Nobel Prize.
No, I know, exactly. That's the thing about life, right? Is you just never know, good or bad, what the hell's going to be coming down the pike. Right?
I want to talk to you a little bit about free speech because I know that you're a big advocate.
Everything has to be free. You should be able to scream fire in a crowded theater. You should be able to say the worst racial epithet that you want. People say that speech is violence. No, violence is violence. Okay. There is, it's like limiting free speech is like being a little bit pregnant. Okay. There's no way it can be done. Okay. Is that as soon as you start saying that disinformation, it was disinformation one time to say that it was a lab leak that caused COVID. Now it's almost universally acknowledged it was a lab leak that caused COVID, right? There are many such examples, right? Is that people in power want to be able to limit speech to stay in power, okay? And so I believe that free and open debate, even to the point of, offending in the worst possible, it's words. It's words. Words are not violence, okay?
Yeah.
Words only have an effect if you let them have an effect, okay? Once you've decided that you can limit speech a little bit, there's just no end. There is no end to where to place that line.
Yeah.
And most of the time that line gets placed in a way that really disadvantages some significant group of people. And that is the fundamental freedom, even more so than bearing arms, on which all freedoms are based, is the ability to speak freely.
How do you think that impacts science or anything in your field?
It impacts it completely, yeah. I mean, it's been corrosive over the course of my career. I mean, one of the things that was amazing about Bell Labs, for example, is you could say anything about somebody else's work. You could criticize it in the most stringent way possible, and people would be grateful for it now, right? Whereas you go to a talk on campus here now, a scientific talk, and they talk for an hour, and everybody goes, "Great talk," and they throw maybe a few softball questions. And then if they happen to be a competitor of yours or whatever, you'll go in a little group afterwards and, "Did you hear what he said about?" Fucking have some balls and just say it and have the discussion. You don't have the discussion, you don't resolve the issues and move the ball forward, right?
Yeah.
So there's such tremendous fear of people to speak their minds. It's just so unfortunate, okay?
Yeah.
And I've watched that develop over the course of my life, and it's just, you know, we just hamstring ourselves by this stuff. And it's fine. I mean, I agree there's consequences. If somebody doesn't like something I say and they're offended by it, it's perfectly fine for them to hate me, okay? I can respect the fact that they hate me. I know that I'm not always a wonderful person, okay? But they don't have the right to hit me, okay?
Yeah.
So, and yes, there are other ways they can keep me from getting a particular job or whatever. Fine, okay, okay, that's fine. That's not violence. That's human nature. You know, I know that this is the price of free speech. Okay, so a lot of people have paid much worse to keep our free speech. So. A lot of people have died for it.
I'm very curious to hear your reaction to Charlie Kirk's murder.
It devastated me.
Yeah.
It really devastated me. And particularly the reactions that I saw on social media that were gloating over it just made me sick to my stomach.
Absolutely.
Absolutely sick, okay? I mean, he was the perfect example of somebody who was fearlessly trying to create debate, right? And to portray him as a right-wing fanatic who deserved to die just disgusted me. Absolutely disgusted me, okay? I mean, I don't really lean too much to either the super conservative side or the super liberal side. I don't feel like I can be pigeonholed on general. I mean, I fall into different camps on different things, right? But I thought he did a great job in what he did, okay? And you don't like what he says? Well, argue back with the guy, right?
Yeah.
But that was just absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, to me, I barely remember when MLK was killed. I didn't have that strong a reaction because I was only like 8 then. But I think I would have had about the same reaction, right? It was just like, you take somebody who's trying to build bridges so much and devotes their life to it, and then it's just as evil gets, right? My oldest son was my daughter. He's trans, and I completely embrace that, and that's fine. He's far happier as a man than he ever was as a woman, okay? So I think that's great, okay? But I can also respect Charlie's point of view. I can respect everybody's point of view. They're just not seeing the real person, and they're just very narrow-minded, and I know that's human nature. And it's just really sad. I mean, and coming right on the heels of that poor Ukrainian immigrant woman. There's just so many things about the modern world that makes me feel like you know, I'm just old. I don't understand. This shit didn't happen when I was your age, okay? The idea of somebody, you know, having committed 30-odd felonies and violent felonies and still on the street and then randomly kills this poor woman, it's like, who are we that we create a culture where that can happen?
Yeah.
That stuff hits you and you just have to move past it and still not understand, because there are too many good things to focus on and too little time to deal with bad stuff, right? I mean, particularly you'll learn when you have kids, right? I mean, money doesn't matter. Time is by far the most precious thing that you'll have, right? And you know, I say the guilt rules my life, because when I'm working, I feel guilty I'm not with my family, and when I'm with my family, I feel guilty I'm not working. You'll find as you get older that friends matter less than family. So don't despair. Don't be anything except your authentic self, okay? Don't hide. I mean, you can hide who you are if you don't want to get into the battles or whatever, but don't present yourself as something you're not, right? Don't agree with them on something that you innerly disagree with. Just change the subject or whatever, right? You know, just, yeah.
When I told people that I was interviewing a Nobel laureate, they said, hey, the last person you interviewed was a comedian. This guy, you're going to have to really use every ounce of charisma to squeeze out his personality. He's probably an introverted...
I'm a blabbermouth, so you don't need to
And
worry.
I'm grateful for that. I thank you so much for your time. And it was such a pleasure getting to know you.
And good luck to you in the future, too.